Let's graph this piecewise defined function on this grid. So look at the first piece here. We are told the following. Let's focus on it. That you have -2, that corresponds to your y coordinates, and then it says if x is less than or equal to -1. So this is what you would do. Because it has the equal to part present, that means when x has the value -1 exactly, then the y coordinate is -2. That's really important to understand. So let's graph it. And we're going to do this. Go over to x equals -1, and then go down to y equals -2. And then, because that's true for x less than or equal to -1, you're going to begin at this point and go forever to the left this way. And then specifically notice the following. Let me stress. Because the equal to part present is with the -1, that means here you have the point solid dot -1 comma -2, and then this is going to the left. Let's look now at the middle piece. Break it down very carefully. That x tells you the y coordinate. And this is true when x is between -1 and +1. So if you graph x, let me do that to the side here, it's really 1 over 1 times x. So the slope is 1 over 1. Keep that in mind. So here it's going to look like the following then. If you could plug -1 in other words, if you could plug -1 to x, you would have -1 as the output. So that would give you the point that looks like the following then. -1 in, -1 out, if you could do that. However, because the -1 itself is actually excluded because of the less than symbol, that tells you that at this point you have to have a hole. So you come over here to the grid, and at -1, -1, you put a hole like this, not a solid dot. Then you graph x over -1 to +1. Now look very carefully. The 1 itself is included here, the +1, because of the equal to part. That means you have the point 1 comma 1. In other words, when x is 1, then y is also equal to 1. Why is that the case? Because here this x plays the role of the y. Remember that the x is the output. So 1 goes in, 1 comes out. So you get the point 1 comma 1. So you're going to do the following then. At the point 1 comma 1, you have to put a solid dot like this. And then you connect the solid dots with a straight line segment. So it looks like the following right here. So that's the middle piece. Now look very carefully at the next part of it, the last part that is. The -1 is your y coordinate, and this is true when x is greater than 1. Let me stress, if 1 could be plugged in, then the output is just -1. So the bottom condition says if 1 could go in, then -1 would come out. However, because it says strictly greater than, that's not an actual point on the bottom piece of the graph. In other words, what you have to do is you have to use this. You have to use a dot, not a point. So you come over here, and then you're going to use a dot at the point 1 comma -1. So 1 comma -1 is right there. And then, let me stress, this -1 corresponds to the y coordinates. So for every other x, as the x's go to the right, the y coordinate is always equal to -1. So that means you're going to graph a line that goes this way. And that's the total graph done in piece by piece there. That's how you think about doing these things. You like if it's been helpful.